Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem Yehoshai, Bahashem HaKodesh. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of GMS, to the true leaders of Israel today, and salutations to all of the Akim who do this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedoms to do so, as well as the scattered Israelites who come looking like the heathen but are not, by way of their forefathers' seeds who are Israelite men. The true name of the Most High is Yahweh, and his son's name is Yehoshai, and the Lord's solely chosen people are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as we're the ones who suffer under the curses in the book of Deuteronomy. My name is Zekalia, and this video is about trouble. The trouble that is coming, man, and that trouble is called Jacob's trouble. In Jeremiah chapter 30 and verse 4, it says, "And these are the words that the Lord Yahweh spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah. For thus saith the Lord Yahweh, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask ye now, and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it." Right? The time of Jacob's trouble, a time like never before upon us, the nation of Israel. Alright, and our nation has suffered some very great tribulations, but this is the worst that will be coming, and this tribulation is going to include famine, pestilence, death by way of the sword. The Lord is going to be creating spirits for vengeance, right? All kinds of horrible things are going to be happening, and it's going to be a lot of chaos with the microchip, which is the mark of the beast. Okay, so it's also going to have concentration camps, martial law, all kinds of things are going to be happening in these last days. As the scriptures say, in the last days, perilous times, right? And the scriptures say to redeem the times, to be circumspect because the days are evil, right? So we're heading into these times, and looking at what's going on in the world and measuring it by way of Bible prophecy, we are very close. And this Jacob's trouble is coming. All right, something is cooking, something is brewing in America, right? And it doesn't have to brew and happen tomorrow or in a week, right? These things take time to brew, okay? But something's brewing up in America, man. And Trump is that cruel leader spoken about in Isaiah 19. He is looking to be that man, right? That is set over, the Egyptians, as they're called, the modern day Egyptians, okay? Referring to, our captivity. The modern day Egyptians are the Edomites, for these so-called white people, right? As we were in captivity in ancient Egypt before, today in this modern day captivity, it is the so-called white man that's ruling, who are the Edomites. And in Isaiah chapter 19, the scripture says the Egyptians, okay? So he's the one that's ruling over them, and he's been bringing, a lot of terrible things to people's life. Just the whole living situation in America has been hit very badly. The food insecurity has skyrocketed to unprecedented numbers, right? And things are just going to continue to get worse, and you Israelites are being targeted already, okay? First, the Northern Kingdom with the whole immigration situation, right? And even they try to throw in, because it's just the Latinos that it would appear to affect, but there is also news about them affecting the other part of the Northern Kingdom, which is the Native Americans, so-called, right? And now the whole DC situation, videos are coming out on social media of, Jacob being harassed and Esau going up into the neighborhoods with their military might and, bringing hell on Jake. And this is just very early stages, man. All right, but something is cooking, something is brewing up. So here it is from the People's Voice. Report troops to be deployed across the U.S. as Pentagon prepares for civil war. Civil war. Very interesting. A bombshell report reveals that U.S. troops are set to be deployed across the nation as the Pentagon braces for an impending civil war, with hundreds of National Guard forces positioned as quick reaction units to squash riots and civil unrest in American cities. This alarming escalation, detailed in the Washington Post on Tuesday, signals a dystopian shift where the military turns inward, preparing to enforce order amid fears of widespread chaos. Yeah, Esau is showing his teeth, his military might upon the world. And he's going to be bringing chaos to the world, man. In Revelation chapter 6 and verse 8, it says, "And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, which is Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him." Hell is a condition of being in, which is an unfavorable condition. Okay? "And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, which is America, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth." So, the wicked elite of Esau, Edom, they have their agenda at hand, which is their NWO, with the microchip at the forefront of it. And they're going to do whatever it takes, man. They're going to bring whatever chaos to the world that they feel they need to bring in order to establish their order. All right? And they have a motto, which is order out of chaos. So they intentionally do these things. Okay, this whole civil war thing brewing up, that is being spoken about. Several months ago, there were multiple individuals that were coming out with, I don't know, you have to be skeptical of things that you see regardless, because Esau does in fact love to control the narrative on both ends. All right, but there were individuals coming out, posting on social media, talking about how there are some types of, sleeper cell agents or whatever it is, that will be activated at a certain point to help incite unrest and insurrection. All right, so, skeptical of it, but having some kind of not throwing it away completely to the side because of Bible prophecy, right? Bible prophecy states that these types of things will be happening. So, hearing about it from these random people on the internet will be like, okay, well, we'll see. But based on Bible prophecy, certain things are going to be happening. So we'll see if what you're talking about is truth. But I'll just keep it in the back of my memory just in case, something pops off. So here it is in 2nd Ezra chapter 15 and verse 14. "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands." So yeah, people are going to be battling against each other for all kinds of different reasons. Okay? Because this world is a very confused and very chaotic world, and America is Mystery Babylon, the great Babylon, going back to the word Babal, which is confusion. America's that great mixing pot. So you have people that are there with all kinds of different kinds of beliefs, and they're a mixture of all kinds of different things that they believe in, and rituals that they commit, and idols that they worship, and all types of madness. All right, so people are going to be battling. Okay, so hearing about this kind of situation, well, the prophecy says that let me read it. "For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands." So it's going to happen. All right, the people fighting one against another, right? Actually, in Isaiah chapter 19, right, the same chapter that I was talking about before. So in Isaiah 19 and 10, it says, "And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother, and every one against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom." All right, so the Lord is going to have these Egyptians fighting against each other, man. It's not the Egyptians in over there in Africa. No, this is referring to those in America. All right, that situation over there. Okay, and it is the Edomites that are ruling. So the Edomite is a modern day Pharaoh. Okay, and so his people are likened unto the Egyptians. Okay, So the Lord is going to set the people against one another, man. And it's brewing, it's happening. Something is stirring up. Pentagon officials have drafted preliminary plans to station 300 National Guard troops at a base in Arizona and another 300 at a base in Alabama, creating rapid response teams capable of intervening in urban hotspots at a moment's notice. So they're mobilizing the military across America, it appears. All right. As tensions simmer over political divisions, economic instability, and social unrest, critics warn this move could erode civil liberties, turning the homeland into a militarized zone under the guise of security. Well, that's how they do. They create a situation and then they offer a solution. And their solution in this case is that they're going to have the place militarized. Okay? With no clear timeline or oversight details released, the deployment raises urgent questions about the true intent behind fortifying domestic forces, potentially foreshadowing a crackdown on dissent in a deeply divided America. All right. So, yeah, this is the situation at hand. There's more to the article. Fox News, let's see what they said when asked for a comment. An unnamed Pentagon official called the Defense Department a planning organization that routinely reviews how the department would respond to a variety of contingencies around the globe. All right. So that's the thing about this website. They do pull their facts from various news sites. Okay. Anyway, this is the situation at hand. We'll see how it occurs. But Bible prophecy states that we're heading into such chaotic times. All right, where people are going to be fighting against each other. There's going to be martial law, etc. Let me go back to 2 Ezra 15 and verse 16. For there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. Right? People are going to be attacking one another, invading one another in their homes, in wherever else. Right? They shall not regard their kings nor princes. They're not going to take heed to the officials anymore. They're not going to listen to the police. They're not going to listen to the military. They're not going to listen to their governments. Okay? And the course of their action shall stand in their power. Right? So people are just going to be buck wild out there in the streets. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. So martial law is coming. So you can imagine how the situation is going to be. And there are movies that show when society starts to collapse and people start to think every man for himself. There's a movie Bushwick, for example. And there are other movies out there. There's a movie with Brad Pitt, with the situation where, the world was heading into a place of chaos and they were in the store and it was every man for himself. Even the police officers were suddenly off duty. They had to, one of them, he was there and, they thought he was there to, stop them or whatever. But he ran right past them and was gathering up supplies too. It's going to be just like that. Okay? So a man shall desire to go to a city and shall not be able. So martial law is coming. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. So the famine and the great tribulation, the chaos of it all, that's everything that will be happening. People are going to be bugging out because there's not going to be any food. They're going to be seeing their loved ones perish in terrible ways. All right, and for you Israelites, man, what is coming upon the nation of Israel is that Yahweh Shemishah is going to release his sword upon the unbelieving, unrepentant Israelites of our nation. And that sword is Esau, the so-called white man, right? And he was given the gift as well of the sword, and this is his rulership, and this is his blessing of the sword, and it's going to be used in all its fullness and all of its might in these last and final days. And the only way to escape from these things is by the mercies and power of Yahweh Shemishah. All right, so that's what the message is. With that, all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Shemishah, B'Shem Kodesh. Shalom.